That's Lit with me, Shazzy D, here on Triple H 100.1 FM. And I have some very special guests joining me in the studio. Tyree Barnett, Tracina Williams, founders of Southern Soul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is so good having you in the studio, Tyree, of course. I've had you in the studio before.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And now you have your lovely wife, Tracina, here.
Yes, I'm finally here after I've had the baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Woo. All right. So, Southern Soul. Tell us what it's all about.
Okay, I guess I'll start. It was a bit of my brainchild. We came to Sydney in 2012. I work as a clinical trials manager. I came here with my job and brought my new husband along with me, whether he liked it or not, sometimes. And as we were here, we loved it and we desired to bring our family here too. So after I had my child in 2017, I brought my family here in 2018, my mother and father. And at that point, honestly, our family was going through a bit of turmoil back in the U.S. where our matriarch in our family, my great-grandmother, Inez Johnson, had died. And she was known for kind of cooking for our family and being that, you know, this bigger-than-life character who we would go in and lean on for support and things like that. So when we actually went back in December 2017 for her funeral and just the aftermath and Christmas, I was experimenting with vegan food and I said, you know what, let's make some family dishes and let's make them vegan and let's see what people say. And they're going to be dishes that my grandmother made and that our family loved. We made cornbread. We made potato salad. We made collard greens, like all these traditional Southern dishes, and just put them out there, and they were vegan. And everyone loved them. And we said, wow, we honestly couldn't believe it in some ways.
And this is a family of traditional meat eaters.
Everyone eats meat. Everyone eats mostly pork and seafood.
Yeah, we're being from North Carolina. Yeah, definitely pork, a lot of seafood.
North Carolina is, I think, we have more pigs than humans in North Carolina.
That's really big pig farming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think outside of China, North Carolina is the biggest pork producing
I did not know.
entity.
And even then, China owns like a lot of farms in North Carolina now.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So that's what we're known for in many ways. But anyway, so we came back here. My mom was here. And I was still on maternity leave and starting to think about going back to work. And I said, you know what? Let's just try. Let's just try to put our food out there. And it was a way for us to, I think, to bring something authentic to Sydney. Because amongst like African American people in Sydney, we always would go to like all the American restaurants and go, is this real? Like we would kind of talk amongst ourselves. Okay, is this?
Or even simpler than that. Where's the salt?
Yeah.
Where's the seasoning?
And so we said, okay, this is, you know, authentic to us. And then also, you know, from my mom was very close to my great grandmother. I was very close to my great grandmother, and it was a way for us to like remember her and like bring our family history to Australia. So we literally started out at Roselle Markets. I think our first Sunday, he would probably tell you more than I because he's the numbers guy. Like we might have made like $80.
We made $160.
Okay. Oh, so double the amount.
Right.
You know, it was. And look, we probably spent like
many times over that.
Many times over that to
there.
be there. But we actually wanted to, you know, share, you know, ourselves with people. And it was actually, even though we made no money, we actually felt really good about it because we were able to talk about like our family, our cultural history as African Americans, and also just, you know, just feel as if we were doing something that I guess harkened back to what we knew. So we were like, this is authentic collard greens. These are authentic baked beans from the U.S. This is authentic mac and cheese, but vegan. And that was, like I said, harkening back to the at that point I was really like feeling as if we needed to look more at plant-based foods for health, for the environment, and just really for, I guess, our overall well-being.
Exactly.
Yes, because you said, because your whole idea is vegan soul food.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so what I found really interesting was, because soul food, I think you always mention, or one thing that always comes to mind when people talk about soul food is, meat and, ribs or, chicken or, that kind of thing. So why vegan? Why make it vegan?
Well, it's interesting. The actual origin of soul food is, from the enslaved people from Africa who were taken out of Africa into the American South, and who basically had to make food out of the scraps they were given. So whether it be leafy greens or the fatty pieces of hogs or etc. And so a lot of it is actually plant-based, like in its origin, because meat was pretty scarce back then. Meat was actually a delicacy, something you would have if, the master deemed it a special occasion or as a reward or something. So a lot of meat was actually used to season vegetables, to season root vegetables and those sorts of ingredients. So we wanted to introduce people to the more vegan and vegetarian origin of soul food, more than just the popular proteins, Shameless plug, I wrote an article for SBS Voices on soul food. So if you search Tyree, Barnett, SBS Voices, it should come up, and it goes into more about the origin story of soul food and the story of, in some ways, of Southern soul.
Yeah, and I think the big point is that the meat was the side, versus being the main aspect of the dish, and it was used just for seasoning. Like I grew up in a very, very small town, Beaufort, North Carolina, and
shout out to Beaufort.
Shout out to Beaufort with our 2,000 or 3,000 people in peak season. Like our 2 stoplights when I was there.
Oh my gosh.
So a super small town.
Yeah,
and I can, when people talk about sustainable living, I was like, literally our cousins used to drive around with, the seafood on the back of the truck and say, we have fish. Or, our grandfather would go and, have the watermelon or the collard greens or whatever. It was really a community garden in a way.
That's sweet.
So, as Tyree was saying, a lot of Southern food, especially soul food, is very vegetarian, and then many times very vegan. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than the seasoning of the food, because we didn't have seasonings, and that's the tradition that was passed down to us. And so I think when we now have garlic powder, onion powder, and all these different things spices and things that we can put in to create that meat flavor, we actually don't lose anything, because we were so used to creating something out of nothing.
And so, speaking of the types of foods that you guys have available, so mac and cheese.
The mac and cheese is by far the most popular dish. It's obviously vegan. We do a gluten-free version. We do a traditional version. We've even done a seafood version with konjac noodle prawn.
Okay.
I'll let the chef extraordinaire tell you about the other dishes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have a little prawny mac. Yeah. So we've had people go "You're messing with me. This is not vegan." Stop. And and then we have so many other dishes like the cornbread. I think people from the U.S., especially from the southern U.S., always react because they're like, I never thought I was going to ever have cornbread again here. So that's kind of, I feel like a home dish that people have.
One lady teared up after having it.
Oh,
she was from Texas.
Bless.
And I think it was in maybe either Shell Harbor,
South Coast.
Exactly. And she had come up and had some and teared up.
And potato salad, baked beans, We don't have collards here.
See that? Yeah, that's so
you got to kind of
we
make
have
it
different.
work.
We have different greens
Yes,
here.
you do. And look, they're similar, but you can get that flavor that you want to have. And there's so many more dishes actually we want to share with people.
Yeah,
but because at the moment we've still been in this kind of, we're sharing via market stall, and because certain items like our mac and cheese is so popular, we have to scale back sometimes in what we can offer to the public. But like in the South, you can't go through breakfast without having a sausage biscuit. We have a vegan sausage biscuit that is amazing. Like our family is like,
really good.
This is it. But and this is a point we deal with a lot, is that sometimes when we're trying to translate our traditional foods, because we do have traditional foods, to Australia, like here there's no equivalent of a breakfast biscuit. You might have a sausage roll.
Yes.
So you have to like say, how is this going to translate?
It's such a good point.
Yeah. And I feel like for America, people go, oh, it's the same. But there's so many things that are not the same. We definitely have our differences. And that's something we talk about a lot. Like, how are we going to make this? Not even because we know if people taste it, they'll love it. Like, people never had grits. Grits is a huge, Southern American dish. When people have it here, they love it. But some people just won't try it because there's no equivalent.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, it's just that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love the point you brought up about biscuits, though, because yes, that is that is such a thing, because like biscuit in your sense is like more of like a bun, kind of like a roll kind of thing, whereas biscuit, the first thing that comes to my head is like cookie, or
completely different.
Whereas
and the closest thing people say is a scone, but it's not a scone. Like when we say scone in the US, it doesn't mean scone here. It's literally like a scone is like a sweet, like bready thing, and only has like blueberries or some sort of fruit in it. But for you, it could be a plain biscuit.
Yes, what you call biscuit, but we're called and
which
then you
we
put
would
cream.
never serve as that way.
Put whipped cream on it. Put
absolutely not. He will tell you, like, we go get pancakes and things here, and they're like, oh, we're gonna put ice cream on it. I'm like, oh my god, who puts ice cream on a pancake?
It's pancake 101.
It cannot happen. It has to have butter.
Waffles? Waffles and chicken?
Yep.
Yes.
Is a thing in the US.
Chicken and waffles.
To me, I was like,
yes.
Question mark?
Because everything has to be like sweet. And in the US, a big thing, especially in the South, it has to be sweet and savory. We have to have both.
Yeah.
Wow.
If it's not salty and buttery and sweet, we don't want any part of it.
Exactly.
Keep that.
Hence the question mark over the ice cream. Like, why?
Ice cream cannot be on the pancake.
It's sweet on sweet. It's a double negative.
You gotta have
Negative. Shock.
Just quickly. So, if getting back to the waffles, we actually do a version of chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
Okay.
We use jackfruit, and we cook it up. We freeze it in like kind of finger-like shapes, and we deep fry it, and that makes chicken with other spices and things. We also take jackfruit and cook it kind of twice over, and we can make a boneless rib that's seasoned either Caribbean jerk style or traditional barbecue style. We do jambalaya, which is a version of, it's kind of like paella, but from the southern U.S., so rice-based with lots of vegetables, vegetable stock, seasonings, including Cajun seasonings, etc. Tracina mentioned the biscuits.
Yes, biscuits.
The biscuits are not biscuits.
Yes.
We've also recently done a vegan lasagna.
Okay.
Which was outstanding.
And it's
veggies
funny.
in it.
Yeah, because people here will think, oh, lasagna from the southern U.S. People in the South love our fake lasagna. It's not Italian lasagna. It's like full of cheese. And we do like baked spaghetti and things like that. You know, we'd have our like fried fish and baked spaghetti or, you know, things like that. So it's part of our culture, but not in the same way, I guess, as traditionally in Italian culture. So I never say, look, this is an Italian lasagna. I'm like, this is a Southern style lasagna. And we premiered that this month at the vegan market, and people just loved it. It is cheesy without the cheese.
Cheesy without the cheese. Yes.
And, like you said, heavy on the veggies and like just really delicious. And we were really proud of it. Yeah. And that's our biggest thing. I especially for me, I always say, I'm not going to put anything out that doesn't taste good to vegan, non-vegan, anyone. And I think also for us, because we know what things tasted like, we want to ensure that taste is authentic. So we're never saying, oh, it's good enough. We literally have things where he tastes it and he's like, it's good. I mean, so many times we have this argument. He's like, it's good, let's put it out. And I'm like, no, it's not right. Okay. Like so many times, because it has to be perfect. It has to be what we remember it to be, and the flavors that our family put into it before we put it out.
Which ties into my next question. What do you love the most about having Southern Soul?
The business itself. Aside from getting to, I guess, eat the experimental food, it's really cool to share like authentic African American culture, our food culture with people, because I feel like African American culture really precedes us. Is probably arguably the most commercially successful culture on the globe, in my opinion. But it's great to give people the full picture of, this is our food. It's not just fatty, proteins. It's not all unhealthy or all bad for you. It's not going to give you instant diabetes or instant heart attack or seizure. It does have an origin and a reason and tradition attached to it. So for me, that's my favorite part, just going through that sort of introduction or reintroduction with people.
Yeah, I would say the same. It's kind of being able to share part of us, our history, combat stereotypes that have been placed on soul food that have not been placed on Southern food. Like, how many people in Sydney will go and eat Southern American food every weekend and not think about calories, or even Italian food or French food? Yeah, and yet
rich fruit
those stereotypes can sometimes be placed on soul food, like this is unhealthy, this is gonna like make you sick. We always try to say, this is in some cases it's a celebration food. Look, you're not eating mac and cheese every day. You're not eating.
You could, but you shouldn't.
Could, but you shouldn't.
In the same way, you're not eating really creme brulee every day. You're not eating fried chicken every day, hopefully. And that doesn't happen in the South either. No one is doing that
all the time.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, it's the same way across so many cultures. But I really feel that we want to share a part of ourselves, a part of our history, and also just feel as if we are being integrated into our community here, because we really see ourselves now as being Australians. Our kids are born here. Our family is now here. We want to bring authentic African American culture here. And this is a way to do it.
Yeah. One more quick thing I really enjoy that I just thought of is talking to people from other cultures around like food similarities. Talking to someone from one of the Slavic countries about like how their cornbread is different to our cornbread. Or talking to someone from Brazil about how their cornbread is very similar to our cornbread. Or talking to someone,
we have people from the Philippines talk about they have something that's similar to grits.
Called a laing, I think it is.
And they were like, oh, this is like what I grew up with.
Right. So that's really cool as well, that cultural transition or conversation. Yeah.
And also, I guess, learning in a sense. See, like I didn't know there was a similar thing, like grits elsewhere.
It kind of brings you to the definition of, I guess, soul food. What does soul food mean to you, right? So soul food, I think to us as African Americans means, we're taking what we have, we're, putting all our heart and soul into it. We're seasoning it. We're spicing it until the ancestors say stop, as they say, But people are doing it all over the world, and you're coming together and experiencing it together in Sydney.
Right here.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it.
Yeah.
There you go.
And my final question for you both today is, what would you say to someone who may be, solid meat eater? Like, I am carnivore billion times. Like, I will eat all the meat on a whole cow, to, thinking about, trying a vegan meal or something that's fully plant-based. What would you say?
I think I can start because I always think that's funny because people eat vegan meals all the time, right? Even when you have your ramen noodles with your random broccoli, that's vegan. Like whatever you put together, and then people say, I never had a vegan meal. Yes, you have. But I really feel from our perspective, we always, when we make our meals and we are trying to taste test things, we always serve it to vegans and non-vegans because we're like, we want this to be good. We don't want this, look, sometimes we all need to eat the rabbit food, quote unquote. We all need to have like the lettuce and the, tomatoes and all of that. But we want to have the flavors there that everyone can enjoy. Mm. And we really feel there's so many things, our food, but so many other places included across Sydney that have really delicious food that is vegan that you can try and enjoy. And even if you're not eating plant-based or vegan every day of the week, even if you do it 1 day of the week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, and you were eating previously every day of the week eating meat, you are contributing to, decreasing the climate change. You're, really adding to the positivity in the earth in terms of, respecting all species, in terms of, even migrancy, in terms of, our earth heating. You are really adding to positivity here, and I think that's our biggest thing. We definitely love our vegan and 100% plant-based people, and they support us, and we love that. But we also respect and want to engage people who are, look, I'm not sure I can be 100% vegan, but maybe 2 or 3 days a week I can think about it and do it if I have foods that are accessible and taste good for me, and are also cost sensitive as well, because that's another sometimes issue with plant-based foods. Yeah.
I think a lady at a market put it really well to me in that she said, look, you could have a really poorly seasoned steak or chicken and it tastes like sandpaper. Yes. She's like, what I like about your food is that it's seasoned well. Yeah. And so really having meat or not having meat on a plate doesn't matter if it's not seasoned or cooked properly or cooked well. And so as long as everything on the plate is cooked well, it doesn't matter if it's got flesh or, plant-based. And so that's what I would tell people, is that our food is good no matter what your dietary preferences are. And that if you have it, when you have it, you're really not going to miss the meat. You're going to be so enthused about what you just had. You're not going to think twice about, well, there was no meat on the plate.